Miami is facing Wisconsin. Both of these teams one win away from being in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, one of the more interesting matchups you see outside of the playoff itself. Both of these teams have something to prove. They have a lot of chips on their shoulder, and it'll be really interesting to see how these two stout defenses stack up.
The turnover chain has been out way too many times for this Miami defense. It has some type of magic behind it because this is one thing the Hurricanes do very well. They rank second in the nation when it comes to forced turnovers, which has allowed them to win games they haven't been favored in. And it ultimately creates more opportunities for the Miami offense, who averages 405 yards per game. They're not the most balanced, but they're pretty balanced under Malik Rozier. It depends on how he comes out and play, but they've been pretty explosive all season.
And at least it's not those shoulder pads with spikes on them that Georgia has. It could be worse.
It could be, but it's better than Oregon, so I'll give them that too.
I don't know. That was pretty sexy. But Wisconsin is able to keep their nose in the grass on both the offensive and defensive lines. They're one of the biggest, lowest teams in all of college football. And what I mean by that is they get physically lower and are able to get under and push opponents back either into the backfield or into the secondary constantly, leaving their running backs plenty of space to run, opening up giant holes on the offensive side, and giving opponents' running backs fits after being hit in the backfield time in and time out. That's really helped them a lot, especially with their amazing ground game with Jonathan Taylor. And they're nearly perfect. They only have one loss on the season, and that was to Ohio State, who's one of the best teams in the entire country. I have a feeling that if Wisconsin had won that game, they definitely would have been in the playoff. They have one of the best strength of records all season long, mostly because of all of those wins. And they dominate teams even when they're ranked in the top 20 like Iowa and Michigan were.
It's interesting to see them progress this far because their passing attack is horrible. Under Hornibrook, he gets way too nervous in the pocket. His offensive line could be stronger and take some of that pressure off, and that's exactly what Jonathan Taylor tries to do by running the ball so much. But he does get nervous, and under pressure he forces a ton of passes that just result in turnovers. He's had 15 interceptions this season, and this is going to be where the difference in this game is made. Turnovers is what Miami excels in, and it seems to be what Wisconsin likes to throw. Injuries is another thing that could affect this Wisconsin team. Luckily, Jonathan Taylor is still healthy, but they have 11 other players that will be sitting the bench this game.
Yeah, and that's something that's haunted a lot of teams all season. Similarly to Wisconsin, Miami lost their last game, but they didn't just lose their final game. They lost the game before that to Pittsburgh, which was just an embarrassing loss. Miami, after that Pittsburgh loss, just looked defeated, and they really showed that in the game against Clemson in the ACC championship game, both of which were just heart-wrenching losses that completely lost them all credibility that they had gained throughout the season and beating other top teams like Notre Dame. And the turnovers, they love to have parties on the sideline when their defense forces a turnover, but it's pretty frustrating when their offense gives the ball right back. They've had a couple series, especially against Pittsburgh, where they got an interception and then just a couple plays later they threw another one. Their defense was back out on the field again. They're really going to need to clean it up against a Wisconsin team who, while they do throw a lot of interceptions, has the ability to possess the ball. They average over 35 minutes of possession. If you give Wisconsin extra possessions and more time with the ball, that keeps your offense off the field. That's not a good recipe to win a game.
The key player to look out for, though, for the Miami team is going to be Malik Rozier. He does throw quite a few picks. He has had 11 interceptions this season. Personally, the Wisconsin secondary isn't that great, so maybe it won't be too big of an issue. But if he can clean that up, reduce those turnovers, he's got 2,900 passing yards this season, responsible for 25 passing touchdowns. And he also has some ground game, moving his feet. He gets 427 yards with another 5 touchdowns. He's going to need to show up on his A game, be focused. And going back to the Miami defense, though, Griffin, I think the turnovers on the Miami offense motivate that defense even more because the defense is doing better than Malik Rozier when it comes to getting those turnovers back.
And what's really impressive is they still have the best turnover margin in the entire country, even after Malik Rozier throws countless interceptions and they lose countless fumbles. And Jonathan Taylor, he's having one of the best years for freshman running backs ever. He's just 79 yards away from breaking Adrian Peterson's freshman rushing record. And, you know, when you're talking about running backs and you're put in the same name as Adrian Peterson, you know you're doing something right. He's one of the most interesting and impressive running backs we've seen, especially from a true freshman in history, and especially recent history since we've been alive. And I can't wait to see what he does next year, and especially in this game against a good Miami front seven. I think Wisconsin's going to win. I like their style of football. They throw more interceptions than I would like, but with their time of possession, that ground attack, and what they've been able to do defensively, I don't think Miami's going to have any shot on offense.
Miami has continued to shock me all season. I'm not surprised by losing the championship, but I think the turnovers is what's going to continue to excel this team. It's going to excel them past Wisconsin, and they're going to continue to have success. I don't know if it's the magic behind the turnover chain or what it is, but Miami gets the job done. If you like this week's episode, feel free to check out some of our others. Thanks for watching RedZone to EndZone.